In a world that never stops talking, scrolling, notifying, and demanding your attention, solitude has become a rare and misunderstood space. You feel it every day. The constant pull of messages, the pressure to respond instantly, the noise of expectations, social, professional, digital. Your calendar fills, your mind races. Even in quiet moments, your thoughts are crowded by what others might think, what you should be doing, who you should be connecting with. Being alone in this environment is often seen as something to avoid, a sign of loneliness, a mark of weakness, a problem to solve. If you choose silence over small talk or your own company over another gathering, people worry about you. Or worse, they assume something is wrong. But here is a deeper truth. There is a profound difference between being alone and feeling lonely. One is a state of presence. The other is a state of absence. Intentional solitude is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is the quiet soil where self-knowledge grows, where creativity breathes, where clarity emerges like morning light over still water. Most people fear being alone because they have never truly learned how to be with themselves. They fill every gap with distraction, every silence with sound, every moment of reflection with action. And in doing so, they hand over pieces of their inner life to the outside world. Today's audiobook is not about becoming antisocial. It is not a guide to isolation or avoidance. It will not teach you to disconnect from relationships or withdraw from life. Instead, it is a training in something far more valuable, learning to embrace solitude as strength, to build a rich, vibrant inner world, to protect your energy with intention, and to thrive independently so that when you do choose connection, you bring your fullest, most grounded self. You will discover that real power often lives in the spaces between people, in the moments no one else sees. When you sit with your own thoughts, when you follow a quiet curiosity without needing to explain it, when you recharge not by performing, but by simply existing. Think of the great minds, artists, writers, and thinkers throughout history. Many of their deepest insights did not arrive in crowds. They arrived in solitude, on long walks alone, in quiet rooms, in the company of their own minds. The world sees the finished work, the shared idea, the public presence. It rarely sees the fertile ground of aloneness that made it possible. You, too, carry that same potential. Over the next 90 minutes, you will not be encouraged to run from the world. Instead, you will be invited to return to yourself. You will learn practical ways to create space for solitude even in a busy life. You will examine why you sometimes feel guilty for needing alone time, and how to release that guilt without apology. You will master the art of inner fulfillment, so your peace no longer depends on external validation. You will discover how to navigate relationships without losing yourself in them. And you will turn solitude from something you tolerate into a true superpower. Because intentional solitude offers deeper self-knowledge. When the noise fades, you hear your own voice more clearly. You understand your patterns, your values, your quiet desires. Intentional solitude also offers creativity because new ideas need room to form. They rarely shout over the crowd. It offers peace, not the fragile kind that depends on perfect circumstances, but the steady kind that lives inside you. It offers clarity. In solitude, decisions sharpen, priorities realign. What once felt urgent often reveals itself as unnecessary. Finally, it offers resilience. The person who is comfortable alone is harder to unsettle. They do not collapse when left to their own devices. They do not panic when external support fades. They stand steady, anchored from within. Most people live in reaction to others. Their mood, energy, and sense of self rise and fall with social feedback. But when you master the art of being alone, you stop outsourcing your inner state. You become less dependent on constant connection. You learn to enjoy your own presence the way you might enjoy the presence of a wise, calm friend. This does not mean you will never feel the ache of loneliness. You are human. Those feelings may still visit, but you will know how to sit with them, understand them, and move through them without letting them define you. You will distinguish between the temporary discomfort of growth and the deeper signal that something in your life needs attention. Chapter by chapter, we will challenge common fears around solitude. The fear of missing out, the habit of filling every silence, the belief that being alone means being unwanted. We will replace them with awareness, with practice, with new ways of relating to yourself and the world, not through force or rigid rules, but through gentle, consistent shifts. Small experiments in creating space, mindful choices about where you direct your attention, honest conversations with yourself that most people never dare to have. Because solitude, at its best, is not withdrawal. It is reconnection. Reconnection with your own thoughts, with your body's natural rhythm, with the parts of you that get lost in the daily noise. Imagine walking into a noisy room after spending time in deep quiet. You notice more. You absorb less. You respond with greater intention. That is the quiet power waiting for you. You do not need to become a hermit. You do not need to reject friendship or love or community. The art of being alone simply ensures that when you engage with any of them, you do so from wholeness rather than hunger, from choice rather than desperation. Take a slow breath with me right now. Feel your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts settle, even just a little. There is no rush here. This space is yours. In the chapters ahead, you will learn how to protect this kind of space in your everyday life, how to stop apologizing for it, how to make it sacred, how to let it nourish you so completely that your interactions with others become richer, not drained. This is not about fixing yourself so you can finally fit in. This is about discovering that you were never broken for needing quiet. You simply hadn't yet learned the language of your own inner world. By the end of this listening, you will relate to solitude differently, not as a last resort, but as a chosen sanctuary, not as loneliness, but as freedom, not as absence, but as profound presence. You will still enjoy people. You may even connect more deeply because you are no longer using them to fill an inner void. But you will also know, in your bones, how to be peacefully, powerfully, joyfully alone. So settle in, slow down, let the noise of the outside world fade into the background. This is your time. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Rediscover the value of your own company. You sit down for a moment with nothing planned. The room is quiet, and almost immediately, something stirs. A restlessness, a subtle urge to reach for your phone, a quiet whisper that says this stillness is somehow empty. Many of us know this feeling well. Alone for even 10 minutes, and the mind begins scanning for stimulation. A notification, a conversation, anything to fill the space. Boredom feels threatening. Silence feels heavy. The fear of missing out lingers, even when there is nothing particular to miss. Society has taught you that your worth is measured by how busy you are, how connected you appear, how many voices surround you. Productivity apps glow with reminders. Social feeds celebrate constant motion. Being alone is rarely portrayed as strength. More often, it is painted as loneliness, as something missing, as a temporary state to endure until company arrives. But here is a deeper truth. The discomfort you sometimes feel in your own company is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that you have been trained to look outward for fulfillment. You have been conditioned to equate presence with performance and solitude with absence. Consider this simple scene. You finish your work for the day. Instead of sitting with a book or staring out the window or simply breathing, you open another tab, check another message, scroll until the mind grows numb. The stimulation feels comforting in the moment. Yet afterward, you feel strangely more depleted. The outer noise has drowned out something essential inside. Most people live this way. They move from one external input to the next, rarely pausing long enough to meet themselves. And in that constant reaching, they lose touch with the quiet power that lives within. You are not alone in this. Countless capable, intelligent people, executives who lead teams by day, parents who manage households, creatives who produce for the world, admit in private that sitting with their own thoughts can feel unsettling. The moment external voices fall away, inner voices rise. Unresolved feelings, unanswered questions, dreams quietly waiting, fears that were easy to ignore in the crowd. So the habit forms: stay busy, stay connected, stay distracted. But what if the very thing you have been avoiding is the source of your greatest freedom? Rediscovering the value of your own company is not about learning to tolerate loneliness. It is about remembering that you are whole on your own. Solitude is not absence. It is presence, deep, undivided presence with yourself. It is the space where you stop performing and start listening, where the noise of the world quiets enough for your inner voice to speak clearly. When you embrace intentional time alone, something profound begins to shift. You stop chasing validation from every interaction. You begin to hear your own preferences, your own rhythms, your own truth. You stop measuring your day by how many people need you. You begin to value how deeply you can meet yourself. This is not withdrawal from life. It is the foundation that makes every connection richer. The person who knows how to be peacefully alone enters relationships without desperation. They offer presence instead of need. They listen instead of performing. They bring a full self rather than a fragmented one, searching for completion. But why does solitude sometimes feel uncomfortable? Because it asks you to face what you have been avoiding: your thoughts, your emotions, the parts of your story you have not yet integrated. In the company of others, it is easy to distract from these things. Alone, there is nowhere to hide, and that honesty can feel confronting at first. Yet, this confrontation is where growth lives. Just as muscles strengthen through resistance, your inner life deepens through stillness. The thoughts you once feared observing lose their power when you sit with them gently. The emotions you once fled become signals rather than storms. You begin to trust yourself. There is an old story of a successful writer who, after years of traveling and speaking, decided to spend 1 month in near total solitude. No social media, no events, very few calls. At first, the restlessness was intense. His mind raced. He paced the room. He questioned his decision. But after the initial resistance passed, something opened. Ideas flowed that had been buried under years of noise. Insights about his work, his relationships, and his own patterns emerged naturally. He did not become lonely. He became acquainted with himself again. When he returned to the world, people remarked that he carried a different kind of presence: calmer, clearer, more magnetic. You do not need a month in isolation to begin. You only need small, honest moments. Here is a practical exercise to start reclaiming your own company. Choose a specific time this week, perhaps 20 minutes to begin with. Put your phone in another room or on airplane mode. Sit or walk somewhere without entertainment, without podcasts, without input. Simply be. Observe what arises. Notice the urge to reach for something. Notice the thoughts that come. Do not judge them. Do not try to fix them. Just watch, as you might watch clouds passing across the sky. If restlessness appears, name it gently. Restlessness is here. If boredom visits, let it stay for a while. You may feel nothing dramatic at first. That is fine. The practice is not to force insight, but to build tolerance for your own presence. Do this regularly, and something subtle but powerful will happen. The discomfort softens. The silence becomes welcoming. You begin to enjoy your own thoughts the way you might enjoy conversation with a trusted friend. You stop seeing solitude as something to endure. Rather, you begin to see it as nourishment. Reframe this truth in your mind. You are not lonely when you are alone. You are recharging. You are not missing out. You are tuning in. Solitude is not emptiness. It is the space where your inner world can breathe, expand, and reveal its quiet wisdom. As you practice, you will notice practical gifts appearing. Creativity flows more naturally when it is not interrupted by constant input. Solutions to problems you have been overthinking often arrive in the shower, on a walk, or in quiet evenings, not because you forced them, but because you created room for them. Clarity emerges. When you spend time alone without distraction, your values sharpen. You see more clearly what truly matters and what you have been carrying out of habit or obligation. Peace settles in your nervous system. The constant need for external approval loses its grip. You begin to regulate your own emotions rather than depending on others to soothe them. And resilience grows. The person who is comfortable in their own company is far less easily shaken by the comings and goings of others. Plans change. People distance themselves. Life shifts. Yet inside, you remain steady because you have built a home within yourself. This is the foundation. Every chapter that follows builds upon this rediscovery. Learning to create space for solitude. Releasing guilt around needing alone time. Mastering inner fulfillment so you never again outsource your peace. Navigating relationships without losing yourself. Turning solitude into a genuine superpower. But none of it lands deeply without this first step, valuing your own company. You do not need to become a recluse. You do not need to reject friendship, love, or community. The art of being alone simply ensures that when you choose connection, you do so from wholeness. You bring depth instead of hunger. You offer presence instead of performance. So begin today in small ways. Choose 10 minutes of undistracted solitude. Sit with your thoughts. Walk without headphones. Eat a meal in silence. Listen to what emerges. You may still feel the old pull toward distraction. That is natural. However, each time you gently return to yourself, you strengthen a new muscle. You stop chasing external noise. You begin to trust your inner world. You stop measuring your value by how many people surround you. You begin to recognize the profound value of your own presence. This is where your inner life becomes rich, not through grand gestures, but through consistent, honest moments of choosing yourself. Rediscover the value of your own company, and everything else begins to align. You become less reactive to the world because you are more rooted in yourself. You become more selective with your energy because you know how precious it is. You become calmer, clearer, and strangely more open to life. precisely because you are no longer afraid of what you might find when left alone with yourself. That steadiness is power. That presence is freedom. And it has been waiting for you all along, in the quiet spaces you are now brave enough to enter. Chapter 2. Build a rich inner world. You sit alone, and the silence feels too loud. Not because there is nothing around you, but because there feels like nothing within you. A subtle emptiness rises. Restlessness follows. Soon you are reaching for anything, your phone, music, a series, a conversation, to fill the void. Many people know this experience intimately. They can function beautifully in the company of others. Yet, when left with themselves, an anxious hollowness appears. The mind grows bored. The heart feels unsettled. Time alone becomes something to endure rather than savor. This is not a personal failing. It is the natural result of a world designed to keep your attention constantly outward. Notifications, expectations, entertainment, obligations, they stream without pause. Your inner world, neglected, grows quiet. Like an untended garden overtaken by weeds, or a vast ocean whose depths you have never learned to explore, it waits patiently, but it does not flourish on its own. Here is the deeper truth. The richness of your life is not determined by how much stimulation you consume. It is determined by how deeply you have cultivated what lives inside you. Most people live on the surface. Their sense of self, their peace, their creativity, even their joy, depends on external conditions, people, events, validation, distractions. When those conditions change or withdraw, they feel lost. But the person who has built a rich inner world moves differently. They carry their own light. They are not easily dimmed by the absence of noise. You stop feeling anxious in solitude when your inner world becomes a place worth visiting. You begin to trust that there is depth, beauty, and wisdom waiting within. But why does the inner world so often remain underdeveloped? Because society rewards visibility and activity far more than reflection and depth. From childhood, you are praised for performance, for sociability, for output. Rarely are you taught how to sit with your own thoughts, how to listen to your inner voice, or how to nourish your private self. Over time, the external becomes familiar and the internal feels foreign. But every great creation, every moment of genuine clarity, every lasting sense of peace has roots in this inner territory. The artist who produces original work, the thinker who sees what others miss, the person who remains steady when life shifts, all have learned to tend this inner garden. Imagine your mind as a library that only you can enter. If you never spend time there, the shelves remain dusty, the books unread, the quiet corners unexplored. But when you begin to visit regularly, something magical happens. Knowledge connects, ideas spark, emotions sort themselves, wisdom accumulates. The library becomes a sanctuary rather than a neglected room. You do not need to be extraordinary to begin. You only need to become intentional. There are gentle, practical ways to build this richness. Start with mindfulness, not as a performance, but as simple presence. Sit for a few minutes each day and observe your breath, your thoughts, the sensations in your body. You do not need perfect stillness. You need honest attention. When the mind wanders, and it definitely will, gently bring it back. This practice strengthens your ability to be with yourself without judgment. Journaling follows naturally, not for public sharing, but for private truth-telling. Write without editing. Ask yourself questions. What did I feel today that I did not express? What am I truly wanting beneath the surface noise? What patterns am I noticing in my life? The page becomes a mirror. Over time, you begin to know yourself more deeply than anyone else possibly could. Reading deeply is another powerful door. Not skimming for information, but immersing yourself in ideas, stories, and perspectives that challenge and expand you. In solitude, a book is not mere entertainment. It becomes a conversation with some of the greatest minds across time. You absorb their wisdom. You argue with their thoughts. You emerge changed. Creative hobbies practiced alone hold special power. Painting, writing, playing music, cooking slowly, walking with curiosity. These activities awaken parts of you that constant distraction keeps dormant. You are not creating for applause. You are creating to express what lives inside. The process itself becomes fulfilling. Reflective thinking ties it all together. Set aside time to review your experiences without rushing to solutions. What worked? What drained you? What brought unexpected joy? In this space, patterns reveal themselves. Decisions become clearer. You stop repeating old cycles unconsciously. Here is a practical exercise to begin deepening your self-awareness today. Choose a quiet moment. Early morning or late evening works well. Take a notebook and sit without distractions for 20 minutes. Begin by writing at the top of the page, "What is alive in me right now?" Let the words flow freely. Describe your current emotions, thoughts, longings, fears, and curiosities. Do not censor. Then ask, "What do I need to hear from myself today?" Listen for the answer. Write it down. Do this regularly. You may feel resistance at first. That is normal. The mind has grown used to outsourcing its attention. But with each session, the inner world grows more vivid. You will notice thoughts becoming clearer, emotions more manageable, and a subtle sense of companionship with yourself emerging. You will still feel restlessness sometimes. You will still encounter difficult emotions or periods of uncertainty, but you will no longer need to flee them through endless distraction. You will have a rich inner world to return to, a place that can hold complexity, offer perspective, and restore your spirit. This is the contrast that changes everything. The externally dependent life rises and falls with circumstances. Praise lifts you. Criticism crushes you. Company energizes you. Solitude empties you. But the person who has cultivated a rich inner world experiences greater stability. Their peace is not negotiated with the outside. It is generated from within. Creativity flows more freely because there is fertile ground for ideas to take root. Clarity sharpens because reflection has become a habit. Emotional stability deepens because you have learned to be with yourself honestly. There was once a quiet professional who spent years chasing success through constant networking and achievement. On paper, his life looked full, yet privately he felt hollow. One year, he began experimenting with intentional solitude. Mornings for deep reading, evenings for journaling and quiet walks. At first, it felt uncomfortable. The old restlessness returned daily, but he persisted. Slowly, the inner world awakened. New ideas for his work emerged naturally. His relationships improved because he brought more presence and less neediness. Most importantly, he began to enjoy his own company. The same man who once feared silence now protected it as sacred. When challenges came, he did not collapse. He had somewhere rich to return to. You can build this same foundation. As your inner world grows richer, solitude transforms. It stops being a lack and becomes abundance. You stop chasing stimulation to feel alive. You begin to discover that life feels most vibrant when you are deeply connected to yourself. You stop fearing boredom. You begin to welcome spaciousness. You stop depending on others to complete you. You begin to meet them from wholeness. This richness also births originality. When you spend time away from the constant noise of trends and opinions, your own voice strengthens. Your thoughts are not mere echoes of what you have consumed. They are authentically yours. In a world of sameness, this is quiet power. Solitude, then, is not empty time. It is the workshop of your soul, the place where scattered pieces of experience are woven into understanding, the sanctuary where your spirit can breathe and remember who you are beneath all the roles you play. You will still engage with the world. You will still enjoy connection, laughter, collaboration, and love. But now those experiences will be enhanced rather than depended upon. You bring a full self into every interaction. You no longer enter relationships or social settings from a place of inner poverty. Take a moment now. Feel the space around you. Feel the space within you. It is waiting. It has always been waiting. Begin tending your inner garden. Explore the ocean of your own consciousness. Visit your private library. The more time you spend there, the more at home you will feel anywhere. This is how you build true independence, not by rejecting the world, but by no longer needing it to define or complete you. You are not empty. You are full of potential that is only now beginning to unfold. Nurture it. Trust it. Return to it often. And watch how beautifully your entire life begins to change. Chapter 3. Master the art of boundaries and selective connection. You say yes when you want to say no. Another invitation. Another gathering. Another conversation that stretches longer than your energy can hold. You smile through it, nodding at the right moments, while inside something quietly drains away. By the time you return home, you feel empty, not just tired, hollow. The solitude you finally reclaim feels like recovery instead of restoration. This is a familiar pattern for many who value their inner world. Guilt arrives swiftly at the thought of declining, fear of disappointing others, worry that you will be seen as distant, unfriendly, or difficult. So you overextend. You absorb energies that do not belong to you. You give pieces of your limited resource, your attention, your presence, your peace, until solitude becomes a desperate retreat rather than a chosen sanctuary. Society celebrates the always available person, the one who never misses an event, the one who says yes to everything. But constant availability without boundaries is not generosity. It is self-abandonment. Here is a deeper truth. Mastering the art of boundaries is not about pushing people away. It is about choosing who and what you allow close. It is the quiet strength that protects your inner world, so you can actually share it meaningfully. Selective connection does not make you cold. It makes you sustainable. Without clear boundaries, even meaningful relationships can become draining. You absorb moods, expectations, and demands that do not serve your well-being. Your energy scatters. Your clarity fades. The rich inner world you are learning to cultivate becomes harder to access. But when you learn to protect your space with intention, something beautiful happens. Solitude becomes deeper. Connections become richer. You show up fully because you are no longer running on empty. But why do boundaries feel so uncomfortable at first? Because they challenge old conditioning. You may fear rejection. You may worry that saying no will cost you love or belonging. Cultural messages whisper that being easygoing and always available is the path to acceptance. So you say yes to avoid short-term discomfort, only to pay for it with long-term exhaustion. The person without boundaries lives in reaction, agreeing, accommodating, people pleasing, hoping to keep the peace externally while losing peace internally. The person with strong boundaries lives with choice. They honor their energy. They value their time. They understand that saying no to what does not serve them is saying yes to what truly matters. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace. You begin to trust that real relationships can withstand honesty. You stop scattering your energy across every demand. You begin to invest it where it creates depth. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates. You decide who enters, when, and for how long. Some people and situations nourish you. They leave you feeling seen, energized, or peacefully expanded. Others deplete you. They demand more than they give, trigger old patterns, or simply ask for attention your nervous system cannot afford that day. Learning to recognize the difference is part of your mastery. Let's talk about the woman Zoe, who always considered herself kind and reliable. Colleagues invited her to every after-work gathering. Friends assumed she would always listen to their problems, no matter the hour. The family expected her presence at every event. She rarely said no. Over time, her creativity dried up. Her alone time felt anxious rather than peaceful. She began to resent the very people she cared about. One day, she decided to experiment with gentle boundaries. She started small. A polite message. I'd love to catch up soon, but this week I'm protecting some quiet time to recharge. Let's plan something in 2 weeks. At first, the discomfort was real. She worried she had offended someone. But strangely, people respected her honesty more than her constant availability. Over time, her energy returned. Her inner world began to flourish again. And when she did choose connection, she brought genuine presence instead of quiet resentment. You can do the same. Learn to decline invitations with clarity and warmth. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm not able to join this time, but I appreciate the invitation. No long explanations. No over-apologizing. A simple, honest statement is enough. Communicate your needs clearly in ongoing relationships. I enjoy our conversations, and I also need time to process alone. I may not always respond right away. This honesty prevents misunderstanding and builds respect. Observe your energy patterns. After spending time with certain people, how do you feel? Expanded or contracted? Lighter or heavier? Use this awareness to guide your choices. Not every relationship needs the same level of access. Some belong in the outer circle. A few deserve the inner one. Here is a practical exercise to help you build this skill in real time. The next time you feel the pressure of an invitation or an ongoing interaction that is draining you, pause. Take a slow breath. Ask yourself 3 gentle questions. 1. Does this align with my energy right now? 2. If I say yes, will I resent it later? 3. What would honoring my needs look like at this moment? Give yourself permission to answer honestly. Then respond from that clarity. It might be a polite no. It might be a shorter conversation. It might be expressing a boundary mid-interaction. I've reached my limit for today. Let's continue this another time. At first, this pause may feel awkward. That is natural. You are retraining old patterns. But each time you choose consciously, you strengthen your inner authority. You stop defaulting to people pleasing. You begin to live by choice. When you no longer say yes out of guilt or fear, your yes become powerful. You show up to chosen interactions with full presence. Conversations go deeper because you are not secretly counting the minutes until you can escape. You listen more attentively. You share more authentically. The relationships that remain grow stronger, precisely because they respect your wholeness. including your need for solitude. You will still feel the pull of old habits. You will still encounter moments when guilt whispers or fear of missing out arises, but you will no longer let them override your inner knowing. You will pause. You will choose. You will protect what matters. This is selective connection. You do not close yourself off from the world. You simply stop letting the world decide how much of you it gets to access. Some moments deserve your full engagement. Others deserve your gentle distance. Some people deserve deep investment. Others deserve kindness from afar. Energy is finite. Spend it where it creates real connection and inner peace. Boundaries also deepen your relationship with solitude. When you no longer feel chronically overextended, time alone stops feeling like recovery and becomes pure nourishment. You return to yourself with relief instead of exhaustion. Your inner world grows richer because it is no longer constantly interrupted. Creativity flows. Clarity returns. Peace settles. In a world that pushes constant connection, the person who masters boundaries stands quietly powerful. They are not rude. They are respectful of themselves and others. They are not distant. They are discerning. They are not selfish. They are responsible stewards of their one precious life. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. You begin to honor your natural rhythm. You stop fearing that boundaries will cost you love. You begin to discover that healthy love respects boundaries. You stop living in emotional debt. You begin to build relationships and a life on true foundation. Mastering boundaries is an act of self-respect. Selective connection is an act of wisdom. Together, they allow you to be alone without loneliness and connected without losing yourself. Take a breath right now. Feel the space you are creating simply by listening to these words. That space is yours to protect. Chapter 4. Unlock deep thinking and creativity in solitude. You sit with a problem. The world around you pulls in every direction. Notifications, thoughts about what others expect, the quiet hum of endless input. And in that noise, your mind stays on the surface. Ideas feel scattered. Solutions remain just out of reach. Creativity feels blocked. This is the quiet cost of modern life. Constant distraction has trained you to think quickly, but rarely deeply. Your attention is fragmented into small pieces, and depth requires something the modern world rarely offers: uninterrupted space. But here is where solitude reveals its greatest gift. When you step away from the noise and learn to be alone with your thoughts, deep thinking emerges. Original ideas take root. Creativity flows not from force, but from fertile emptiness. Solitude is not the absence of stimulation. It is the birthplace of insight. Most people fear this space. They fill every gap with podcasts, videos, conversations, and scrolling. The mind rarely gets a chance to wander freely or settle into focused contemplation. As a result, thinking stays reactive, responding to whatever appears next, rather than creating what could be. Yet, throughout history, the clearest minds have understood this secret. Writers retreated to quiet rooms. Scientists walked alone through gardens. Artists sat in silence until visions clarified. Thinkers like Newton, Einstein, and countless artists found their breakthroughs not in crowds, but in moments of deliberate aloneness. The world saw the finished idea. It rarely saw the quiet hours that birthed it. Solitude creates the conditions where your mind can do its deepest work. Without external voices competing for attention, your own voice strengthens. Patterns become visible. Connections form between ideas that once seemed unrelated. Problems that felt overwhelming in the noise often resolve with elegant simplicity in the quiet. This is not magic. It is natural. Your mind, like deep water, reveals its clearest reflections when the surface stops rippling. Consider the difference. In constant connection, your thinking mirrors the chaos around you. Shallow, reactive, influenced by the loudest voices. In intentional solitude, thinking turns inward and outward at once. You explore your own experiences. You question assumptions. You allow ideas to simmer until they transform. You stop skimming the surface of life. You begin to dive into its depths. You stop consuming other people's thoughts endlessly. You begin to generate your own. You stop feeling mentally exhausted by the end of the day. You begin to feel quietly energized by what you discover within. Creativity especially thrives in solitude because it needs room to breathe. New ideas rarely arrive fully formed amid distraction. They need space to evolve. Half-formed thoughts connecting, images rising unbidden, emotions translating into expression. When you protect this space, you unlock originality. In a world flooded with recycled content, your unique perspective becomes a rare and valuable offering. There was once an ordinary engineer who felt stuck in his career. Ideas for innovation came slowly, if at all. He began experimenting with 1 hour of solitude each morning. No devices, no goals, just thinking and sketching. At first, the restlessness was strong. His mind wandered to worries and to-do lists. But he stayed with it. Over weeks, something shifted. Solutions to long-standing work problems emerged during quiet walks. Creative approaches to personal challenges appeared while staring out the window. Colleagues began noticing his clearer thinking and fresher ideas. He had not become smarter. He had simply given his mind the conditions it needed to work at full capacity. You can cultivate this same power. Remove distractions deliberately. Create pockets of time where your devices are elsewhere. Even 20 to 30 minutes can be enough to begin. The mind will resist at first. That is expected. It has grown accustomed to constant feeding. Practice boredom intentionally. Sit with no agenda. Let the mind wander without judgment. What feels like emptiness at first often becomes the fertile ground where unexpected insights grow. Boredom is not the enemy of creativity. It is the gateway. Take dedicated thinking walks. Leave your phone behind. Move your body while allowing your thoughts to roam freely. Many find that the rhythm of walking loosens ideas that stay trapped when sitting still. Or choose unstructured alone time. Sit with a notebook. Write whatever comes. Draw. Stare at the ceiling. Follow a question that interests you without rushing for answers. Let the mind meander productively. Here is a practical exercise to begin unlocking deep thinking today. Set aside 45 minutes this week in complete solitude. Choose a quiet place. Bring only a notebook and pen. Start by writing one question at the top of the page, something meaningful to you, such as, "What am I truly seeking right now?" Or, "How can I approach this challenge differently?" Then let your hand move. Do not edit. Do not force brilliance. Simply follow your thoughts wherever they lead. If your mind wanders, follow gently. When the time ends, close the notebook without judgment. Repeat this practice regularly. You may not experience fireworks immediately, but over time, the depth of your thinking will increase. Clarity will sharpen. Creative energy will flow more naturally. You will begin to trust the wisdom that arises when you give it space. You will still encounter distractions. You will still face days when the mind feels noisy or resistant. But you will no longer let constant input dictate the quality of your thinking. You will choose depth. You will protect the conditions where real insight lives. This is the long-term transformation. Your mental clarity grows. Decisions become sharper because you have examined them from multiple angles in quiet. Self-insight deepens. You understand your patterns, values, and desires more completely. Innovation emerges naturally because your mind has room to make new connections. You solve problems more effectively. You create more originally. You live with greater intention. The person who cultivates deep thinking in solitude moves through the world differently. They listen more attentively because they are not mentally fragmented. They contribute more meaningfully because their ideas carry the weight of reflection. They remain steady because they have an inner reservoir of clarity to draw from. In contrast, the distracted life feels busy yet empty. Much activity, little progress. Many opinions absorbed, few original thoughts formed. Solitude reverses this. It turns you from a consumer of information into a creator of understanding. You stop outsourcing your thinking to the world around you. You begin to trust your own mind. You stop fearing quiet. You begin to welcome it as a trusted companion. You stop settling for surface level living. You begin to access the profound depths that have always been available. Solitude, then, is not merely rest. It is the workshop of your highest self, the studio where your creativity and wisdom take shape, the sanctuary where you become more interesting, more capable, and more fully yourself. The more you practice, the more natural it feels. The more natural it feels, the richer your inner world becomes. And the richer your inner world, the more powerfully you show up, whether in silence or in connection. Take a slow breath. Feel the space around you. Feel the potential within you. This quiet is not empty. It is full of possibility. Honor it. Explore it. Return to it often. In doing so, you unlock not just deeper thinking and creativity, but a more authentic, grounded, and original way of being. Chapter 5. Navigate relationships without losing yourself. You crave connection. Deep, meaningful conversation that lingers. Shared silence that feels comfortable. Yet, after even a few hours with others, you feel the familiar pull, the need to retreat, to return to your own space, to breathe freely again. Many who value solitude know this tension well. You want relationships, but not at the cost of yourself. Small talk drains you. Unspoken expectations weigh heavy. You say yes to gatherings when your whole being longs for quiet. Afterward, you feel not nourished, but depleted. And sometimes, others misunderstand your need for distance as rejection or aloofness. This is the delicate balance every introvert must learn. How to remain warmly connected to others without abandoning the relationship you have with yourself. Here is a deeper truth. You do not have to choose between meaningful relationships and rich solitude. The two are not enemies. When held in wise balance, they strengthen each other. The person who has learned to be peacefully alone enters relationships with greater presence, clearer boundaries, and more authentic offering. They do not come from hunger. They come from wholeness. Without this balance, even good relationships can erode your peace. You people please to keep harmony. You endure conversations that exhaust you. You absorb emotions that are not yours. Slowly, resentment builds. Solitude stops feeling like rest and starts feeling like escape. But when you master navigation, you stop losing pieces of yourself in every interaction. You begin to bring your full self, rested, clear, and genuinely available. But why does this balance feel so difficult? Because you have been taught that love and friendship require constant availability. That caring means saying yes. That needing space is somehow selfish or cold. Cultural voices celebrate the extroverted ideal, the always on, always social person. Yet, your nature whispers something different. It asks for depth over breadth, quality over quantity, presence that is chosen, not obligatory. Real connection thrives not on volume, but on intention. A few relationships where you feel truly seen will nourish you far more than many shallow ones. And the capacity to enjoy those few deeply is built in solitude. Imagine a tree with strong, deep roots. It does not fear the wind because it is anchored within. It can offer shade and fruit generously because its own source of life is secure. You are that tree. When your inner world is tended, when solitude has filled your roots, you can extend yourself without fear of toppling. You stop performing connection. You begin to offer it authentically. You stop fearing that distance will end relationships. You begin to trust that healthy ones can hold your truth. You stop draining yourself to prove you care. You begin to show care through sustainable presence. To cultivate this trait, first choose quality over quantity. Invest deeply in a few relationships that feel reciprocal and energizing. Allow others to exist in gentler orbits, with kindness, but less frequent access. Second, communicate your needs with clarity and warmth. Simple, honest scripts serve well, such as, I'm someone who needs time alone to recharge, so I can be fully present when we connect. Or, I've enjoyed this evening. I'm going to head home now to rest. No elaborate excuses, just truth spoken kindly. Third, build intentional recharging rituals after social interaction. A quiet walk, time with a book, silence without guilt. Treat this not as recovery from burden, but as sacred return to yourself. Here is a practical exercise to help you navigate this balance more consciously. After any significant social interaction, a meeting, a gathering, a long conversation, set aside 10 minutes alone. Ask yourself gently, what felt nourishing? What drained me? What do I need right now to return to center? Write the answers if it helps. Notice patterns over time. This reflection turns experiences into wisdom. It teaches you who and what truly aligns with your energy. It prevents unconscious resentment, and it strengthens your ability to enter the next connection with clearer boundaries. You will still feel the old pull of guilt sometimes. You will still encounter people who do not understand your need for space. But you will no longer let those feelings override your inner knowing. You will pause. You will choose. You will protect your capacity to connect meaningfully. When you return to others after deep time alone, you listen better. You speak with more intention. You offer presence rather than performance. You are less reactive, more generous, because you are not secretly starving for solitude. The connections that matter become richer precisely because you no longer fear losing yourself within them. You stop abandoning yourself to be liked. You begin to trust that authentic connection values your wholeness. You stop measuring friendship by constant availability. You begin to measure it by mutual respect and depth. You stop fearing that needing alone time makes you difficult. You begin to see it as the very quality that makes your presence valuable. True connection, after all, begins with the relationship you have with yourself. The more peacefully you can be alone, the more powerfully you can be with others. Not from need, but from choice. Not from emptiness, but from fullness. Mastering this art allows you to build relationships that feel like addition, not subtraction. connections that honor both your need for others and your sacred need for self. You become the person who can love deeply without losing yourself, who can be warmly present and peacefully absent, who brings the richness of solitude into every meaningful exchange. That is not distance, that is wisdom, that is power, and it is yours to live. Chapter 6. Design a fulfilling life on your own terms. You look at the lives around you, filled with constant plans, social circles, and visible achievements, and wonder if your quieter path can ever feel complete. The world suggests that a rich life must be loud with company, busy with obligations, and validated by others. Alone time is often portrayed as something to minimize, not celebrate. Yet, here is a deeper truth. A truly fulfilling life is not measured by how many people surround you or how loudly you are seen. It is built through deliberate choices that honor your nature, your values, and your need for depth. Solitude is not a gap to be filled. It is the foundation upon which everything meaningful can be constructed. When you design your life on your own terms, you stop chasing someone else's definition of success. You begin to create a rhythm that feels like home. You stop measuring your days by external applause. You begin to recognize the quiet satisfaction that comes from living authentically. Most people build their lives reactively, fitting themselves into expectations, calendars, and roles that slowly erode their spirit. They stay busy to avoid the discomfort of choosing. But the person who masters the art of being alone designs with intention. They create space for what truly matters. They protect time for reflection, creation, and rest. They build a life that replenishes rather than depletes. Think of your life as a garden. Many tend their garden according to what neighbors admire, colorful but chaotic, constantly requiring attention from outside. The wise gardener designs according to the soil, the light, and the seasons they actually have. Some areas bloom in company. Others thrive in quiet sunlight. Both are necessary. Both are beautiful. You stop living as a guest in your own life. You begin to become its architect. You stop waiting for the right people or circumstances to feel fulfilled. You begin to cultivate fulfillment from within. A life designed on your own terms rests on three quiet pillars: intentional structure, meaningful rituals, and unapologetic self-knowledge. Structure does not mean rigidity. It means creating a gentle framework that honors your energy. Perhaps mornings belong to deep thinking or creative work, evenings to slow unwinding. Weekends hold longer stretches of solitude, balanced with chosen connection. You decide what nourishes you, instead of letting the world's demands decide. Rituals become anchors. A morning walk with no headphones, lighting a candle while journaling, preparing a meal with full presence, reading before sleep. These small, repeatable acts turn ordinary days into something sacred. They remind you that your time alone is not empty. It is intentionally full. Self-knowledge guides it all. When you have spent time building your rich inner world, you know what lights you up, what drains you, what values you refuse to compromise. You pursue passions not for show, but for the pure joy of mastery and discovery. There was a reserved accountant named Harry who once felt his life was passing in quiet disappointment. He had a stable job, occasional friends, but everything felt borrowed from other people's expectations. One year, he began designing small experiments. He blocked 2 hours every Saturday morning for uninterrupted reading and note-taking on topics that fascinated him. He created a simple evening ritual of tea and reflection. He joined one small hiking group that respected silence as much as conversation. He learned to say no to invitations that did not align with his inner self. Slowly, his life transformed. Not louder, but deeper. Ideas flowed. Energy stabilized. A quiet confidence emerged. He did not become extroverted. He became more himself. And in that authenticity, he found a contentment far richer than anything he had chased before. You can shape this same kind of life. Here is a practical way to begin. Take time this week for a personal design session. Sit in solitude with a notebook. Ask yourself, what activities make me lose track of time? What kind of day leaves me feeling quietly energized rather than drained? What values do I want my life to reflect? Then sketch a simple weekly rhythm. Block protected solitude. Schedule meaningful connection. Build in self-care practices, movement, nature, creation, rest. Treat this rhythm not as a rigid plan, but as a living framework you can adjust with awareness. Review it gently each month. You will still feel the old pull of external expectations. You will still encounter days when doubt whispers that your quieter life is somehow lesser. But you will no longer let those voices design your days. You will pause. You will remember your own terms. You will choose alignment over approval. This shift brings profound advantages. Your clarity sharpens because your choices flow from within. Contentment grows because fulfillment no longer depends on unpredictable outside conditions. Resilience deepens because your well-being has strong internal roots. Creativity flourishes in the protected spaces you have carved out. And relationships, when they happen, become richer because you bring a full, self-respecting presence. You stop living for the approval of the crowd. You begin to live for the quiet approval of your own soul. You stop measuring success by visibility. You begin to measure it by how aligned and alive you feel. You stop fearing that solitude means missing life. You begin to realize that this is where life, in its truest form, begins. Designing your life on your own terms is an act of profound self-respect. It says, I know myself. I trust myself. My needs matter. My energy is precious. My peace is worth protecting. In a world that constantly demands more speed, more connection, more output, the person who chooses depth, rhythm, and authenticity stands quietly powerful. They are not missing out. They are opting into something rarer and more lasting. You do not need permission to live this way. You only need the quiet decision to begin. Honor your nature. Protect your energy. Pursue what genuinely calls to you. Build rituals that feel like coming home. A fulfilling life on your own terms is not a compromise. It is the fullest expression of who you are. It is rich with meaning, steady with peace, and quietly magnificent in its authenticity. You are not building an empty existence. You are building a sanctuary that travels with you. A life that feels like home, wherever you are. Conclusion: embracing your solitude as strength. You have reached the end of this journey, yet in truth, it is only the beginning. Take a moment now. Feel how different the silence feels compared to when you first began. What once might have carried restlessness or unease now holds a quiet invitation. You have touched something essential, the art of being peacefully, powerfully alone. You entered this listening perhaps carrying the old weight, the subtle anxiety of empty hours, the guilt of needing space, the fear that solitude meant something missing in you. You leave with a deeper knowing. Being alone is not a deficit. It is a profound advantage. It is the soil where self-knowledge grows, where creativity breathes freely, where peace becomes unshakable, and where you finally meet yourself without performance or pretense. Throughout these chapters, you have learned to rediscover the value of your own company. You have built a rich inner world that no longer feels empty. You have mastered boundaries that protect your energy while allowing authentic connection. You have unlocked deep thinking and creativity in the spaces others rush to fill. You have learned to navigate relationships without losing yourself. And you have begun designing a life on your own terms, one that honors your nature instead of apologizing for it. This is the transformation. Solitude, once misunderstood as loneliness, reveals itself as freedom. In its embrace, you discover that true connection flows more naturally when you are no longer desperate for it. Creativity emerges more originally when it is not interrupted by noise. Peace settles more deeply when it does not depend on perfect circumstances. You become less swayed by opinions, less drained by expectations, and more at home within yourself. This is not about rejecting the world. It is about refusing to abandon yourself within it. You will still enjoy meaningful relationships. You will still feel the warmth of shared moments. But now you carry something precious, the ability to return to yourself without guilt or anxiety. You bring more presence to every interaction because you are no longer secretly starving for solitude. You offer more genuine connection because you are no longer using others to fill an inner void. Here is a simple challenge to carry this transformation forward. For the next 72 hours, practice three things. First, protect one intentional pocket of solitude each day. No devices, no input, just you and your thoughts. Notice what arises. Second, when an invitation or expectation arises, pause and ask, does this honor my energy and my truth right now? Choose accordingly, with kindness, but without apology. Third, at the end of each day, reflect for a few minutes. What felt like alignment today? What nourished my inner world? Let these small observations guide you. Observe how you feel. Observe how much lighter your mind becomes. Observe how naturally your own company starts to feel like home. You are no longer the person who fears being alone. You are the person who knows the power that lives there. You stop chasing constant external validation. You begin to trust your own presence. You stop apologizing for your need for space. You begin to honor it as sacred. You stop living on the surface of life. You begin to move through it with depth, clarity, and quiet confidence. Remember this: the richest life is not the loudest. It is the one built with intention, protected with boundaries, and rooted in a strong relationship with yourself. When you master the art of being alone, you do not close off from life. You finally begin to meet it from wholeness. Carry this truth with you. Let it shape your days. Let it steady you in moments of doubt. The world will continue to call for your attention, but now you know how to answer from a place of centered strength. You have always carried this capacity. Now you have remembered it. Walk forward with quiet power. You are home, and that home travels with you, wherever life may lead.